Good morning, and we are right to a Fox News alert. Police arresting a second person in connection to the London subway terror attack.
This as police raid a home that could be connected to the first suspect.
Ellison Barber joins us now live from Washington, D.C. with the very latest. Ellison, what are you hearing this morning?
British police made their second arrest in connection with Friday's terror attack. Police, as you said, arrested a 21-year-old in a western borough of London. It was almost midnight local time. The arrest comes on the heels of another one, an 18-year-old arrested yesterday in Dover. Police say he was in the departure area of the port of Dover. This is a port where ferries travel to and from France. Both men are being held under a section of the Terrorism Act, Section 41, which allows police to arrest and question a person suspected of terrorism without charging them. Neither men have been publicly identified, but not long after the arrest of the 18-year-old, British police did raid a home in nearby Surrey. Sky News reports that the house belonged to an elderly couple in their 70s and late 80s who have taken in over 260 foster children in the last 40 years, at one point being honored by the Queen. Police say so far they've identified 121 witnesses and interviewed 100 people. They're still asking the public for any videos or information they might have. Abby, Pete, Todd.
Yeah. All right, Ellison, thank you so much for that update. And it's a big update. I mean, another terrorist arrested, a suspected refugee, 21-year-old man. And the threat level in Britain remains at critical, the highest level, meaning another attack is imminent. I mean, that's not a way to live, right?
No, it's not, and especially when you understand that this is something they knew about or likely knew about. And President Trump took a lot of criticism yesterday because he came out quickly tweeting about the fact that, hey, you know, this is probably something that was on their radar screen. In fact, you know, he took a lot of criticism yesterday for these tweets. We'll put them up. He said yesterday, tweeting, another attack in London by a loser terrorist, which is totally right. These are sick and demented people who were in the sights of Scotland Yard, must be proactive. Again, that's the portion of it that was most criticized,
because
in the sights of Scotland Yard.
He tweeted that Friday morning when we were on the air here. That was right when this all was breaking, and people, even Theresa May, the prime minister there, said it's really dangerous to come out and make, you know, statements like this and when the investigation is still going on. But time and time again, when it has come to these terror attacks, the president has been spot on with what he has called them. He's called them out right away, and people say, look, this is the new way of doing things. This is part of the reason we voted you in office, because we knew that you were going to be tough and you were going to say things that weren't always politically correct, but you were saying them at the time we needed them.
And to Pete's point about being on the radar, this guy was reportedly arrested 2 weeks ago, and clearly police knew about him. Also, what we also learned is it does appear that this gentleman was either a foster son or something along those lines with the couple that is being discussed. And I read reports that said this foster parent couple was fed up with the guy, and they said that he had just gone off the deep end, and they didn't know if they could care for him much longer.
So that's the couple right there. By all reports, a wonderful couple has taken in over 260 foster children over the years. So not just refugees. Recently, though, multiple Syrian refugees and others coming from the Middle East. This guy, we don't know exactly what his background is, but was one of those refugees. I feel like it's a picture of what London is going through. It's like they want to be so welcoming. We want these kids. We want to help them. We want to bring them into our society, only to have them turn around and put that device on their subway system to blow them up. It's like, I'm welcoming the very terrorists that would undo us because I'm so kind and the West is so welcoming. We're multicultural, we're diverse, we want to be accepting, except, oh, by the way, you don't believe in the country that you're in? Even though I've opened my home to you as a foster parent, now you're trying to blow me up? It's almost too perfect of an example of how the West and Europe has sort of committed their own suicide by not truly understanding what's happened inside their midst.
So now the focus here in the U.S. becomes travel ban. What do we do about that? And again, of course, President Trump tweets about that. He gets in trouble. Let's read about his tweet. He says the travel ban into the United States should be far larger, tougher, and more specific, but stupidly, that would not be politically correct. That was Friday. So, again, here's where we are. We have this discussion all the time about the travel ban. And again, you know what I'm going to bring it back to when we go to these diners, Abby and Pete. Everybody wants the travel ban that we talked to. Granted, this is Trump's base, but they really are pro-travel ban. And when you ask them, what's the #1 issue to you? I would say, in my estimation, about 75% say travel ban.
Well, they want extreme vetting, right? And you think about whether it's Democrat or Republican, isn't this just common sense when you think about it? I mean, I've spent a lot of time living in Asia, over in China most recently. It's really difficult to travel to many countries around the world. They say, oh, just come on in.
Yeah.
But we'll just accept you.
They don't do
at a certain point, you've got to have certain laws. You've got to have order to move on and to be a good, healthy country. And I think that has been the message that President Trump has had from the beginning. He gets criticized oftentimes for that, but then a terror attack happens and people are like, wait a minute, we got to open our eyes here a little bit.
Absolutely, including things like chain migration, which in other countries don't do as well. One comes in, you can bring your whole family in. It's a real problem. If you don't know who's inside your country and what their allegiance is, then you don't have a country and you don't have citizens. It's all about citizenship. And if people are coming in the wrong way or coming in with the wrong intentions, then how do you keep your country secure? You can't. In the UK, there are 500 people being monitored 24 hours a day. I don't know if this guy was one of them or not. We'll find out. We have 50 investigations in all 50 states of this country amongst potential radical Islamic terrorists. Our FBI is monitoring those people. Imagine what that takes. It's incredible to think about that. So
unbelievable.
We're actually going to have Dr. James Mitchell on. He's the author of Enhanced Interrogation. He'll be on at 6:30. How do you get your arms around stuff like this? We're going to ask him.
Well, he
about
can.
that.
He can.
gets it.
We had him on Friday morning. He's got some really great things and important things to say about what we are facing here in the U.S. when it comes to terrorism, so you don't want to miss that. But this week is a big week coming up.
Huge.
Because you have leaders around the world meeting at the UN, and President Trump is going to make his debut at the UN, and you can imagine one of the biggest topics he's going to focus on is fighting terrorism and how you coordinate with other leaders around the world to start getting this right.
Can you imagine writing that speech? So you got ISIS, you got the bombing in Britain, you've got North Korea, you've got Russia, you've got China, all those things. I mean, this is his first chance to address basically an international audience. I mean, he does so every day on Twitter.
Right.
So you don't need to be at the podium at the UN, but it'll be very symbolic and it'll be very interesting to see what he has to say.
We heard a little snippet from Nikki Haley, head of the UN for the U.S., and she talked about what we can expect coming up and from the president. Here's what she said.
To start off with the speech that the president gives, I think you can see it for yourself. I personally think he slaps the right people, he hugs the right people, and he comes out with U.S. being very strong in the end.
Yeah, let's not discount. Let's not discount discussion of Iran here. I've read that is also going to be a major topic of discussion.
He slaps the right people.
He slaps the right
hugs
people.
the right people.
You're totally right, Todd. Iran is going to be a huge subject. Do we recertify the deal or not? What we do in North Korea will define what we do in Iran. And if we're going to give the North Koreans a bomb, do we do the same with Iran?
Because they've got their hands in all this. I mean, we think Iran is just Middle East. They're messing around with North Korea, and obviously they're involved with Russia. So you got to pay attention to all that.
Absolutely. We've got Kellyanne Conway on the show at 9 a.m. this morning, and we're going to ask her all about what we can expect this coming week at the UN. So you don't want to miss that. A lot to come.
We got a big show.
She will have a sneak preview of that.
A big show to come. We do have some other headlines that we're following this morning with another Fox News alert. We start with passengers forced to evacuate a plane in Paris after reports of a direct threat. Police now searching passengers as K9s sniffed through luggage on the British Airways flight before it could take off to go to London. Authorities determining it was a false alarm. Well, the exact threat made towards the flight is still unclear. We'll keep an eye on that one. And to another Fox alert now. Violent protests breaking out for the second straight night in St. Louis. Demonstrators rallying against an ex-officer's acquittal in the death of a black man.
This is an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse immediately.
Well, police arresting 9 people during the unruly night. Protesters threatening officers and damaging businesses. Missouri Governor Eric Greitens talked to our Griff Jenkins, praising the action taken by police. Griff will share their conversation with us in just a few minutes. And just hours from now, Key West, Florida will no longer look like a ghost town. The island city opening back up this morning for homeowners to assess the damage left by Hurricane Irma. But crews, they are warning of a new crisis as the city only has limited amounts of fuel, power, and running water. The city officially opens this morning at 7. That is going to be, I'm sure, an emotional morning for a lot of people.
City opening, Well, big night for college football. Florida beats Tennessee with a wild 63-yard Hail Mary touchdown pass with 9 seconds on the clock. Watch this. You know, no better way to win, no worse way to lose. Another wild game, this one going into double overtime. USC outlasting Texas, winning 27-24 with a late field goal. And Nebraska reportedly paying Northern Illinois $820,000 just to show up and play. That money going toward a stunning loss. NIU pulling off an upset of Nebraska. The entire state this morning surely is in mourning. That's all they got. I love Nebraska, but they love their Cornhuskers. And when they lose, it's like a state of mourning.
It's the whole state.
Oh, yeah. Because that's their protein. Their protein's a college.
That's true.
Good games this weekend.
Good stuff. Well, moving on to Hillary Clinton. She gets grilled over that infamous tarmac meeting between her husband, President Bill Clinton, and Attorney General Loretta Lynch. So did she say it was wrong? You won't want to miss her answer.
And Al Sharpton coming to the defense of ESPN host Jemele Hill after she called President Trump a white supremacist. His warning to the network not to fire her.
Of course.
And
we are back with a Fox News alert. Violent protests breaking out for the second straight night in St. Louis.
Demonstrators armed with their own rifles rallying against an ex-officer's acquittal in the death of a black man. Police arresting 9 people during the unruly night last night.
Griff Jenkins joins us live in the St. Louis suburb of University City. Griff, how's it looking right now?
Well, you know, for the second straight night, as you mentioned, it started peaceful, then it got violent. Look in this Del Mar Loop, University City area, this Middle Eastern restaurant, the windows smashed with rocks and bottles. They actually smashed the other side, too, here, and that, of course, is not good. 9 total people arrested, which brings the 2-day total to 42. There were 33 the night before. Fortunately, last night, no officers were injured, and we wonder whether or not it may be the result of a tougher stance, a new approach from Governor Eric Greitens. He was walking through the Central West End yesterday, an area where he lived prior to becoming governor. He was talking to businesses, talking to officers, and we caught up with him and talked to him about his approach. Here's what he had to say.
They were proactively engaged. When people decided to vandalize vehicles, they were arrested. When they assaulted our law enforcement officers, they were arrested. You know, in the past, Griff, we've had leaders who wanted to give people a safe space to loot and to burn. Right now in Missouri, if you loot, the only safe space you're going to have is in a jail cell. We've been incredibly clear. If you're out there to peacefully protest, we will protect you. But if you're going to riot, we're going to cuff you. You assault one of our law enforcement officers, we are going to arrest you. Violence and vandalism is not protest. It is a crime. And our message to anybody who's going to come to the state of Missouri and think that they're going to burn, that they're going to loot here, is they need to know that they're going to get thrown in jail. Our law enforcement officers are going out on the front lines, operating with tremendous restraint. We've got your back. We want our law enforcement officers to know we've got their back, that we appreciate them, we appreciate their service, their sacrifice, and the other thing that we say to them, we let them know that we appreciate their families. You know, Griff, these men and women are out here doing a difficult job, putting their lives on the line to protect all of us, and we want their families to know how much we appreciate and support them as well.
Now, last night, U2 canceled a concert that was planned, and tonight, Ed Sheeran has canceled a planned concert. And then here in the Del Mar Loop, you see this is going to have to be fixed. There's a few crews out here. It's an incredibly dangerous glass, several businesses like that. There's a protest planned for 3 p.m. today. It's called a die-in. They're doing it at the St. Louis Police Department headquarters. We'll see what becomes of that, guys.
Yeah, Griff, thank you very much. It's quite clear that that business owner deserved to have his business vandalized.
I don't know how it helps you to destroy your own town, whether it's throwing bricks at the library, at restaurants. You know, U2 was canceled last night. Listening to that governor, though, I mean, he had a lot of great things to say. You're saying he's a former Navy SEAL. You can tell the way he talks. He was like, if you want to come here peacefully, that is fine. But if you're coming here to cause violence, to protest and get out of hand, you're going to be in handcuffs and you're going to be in jail.
It's called the jail cell. Really safe space. We'll put you there happily.
You know,
when you
look,
do that.
what makes America so great is the fact that we can protest peacefully. peacefully. And he said, if you want to do that, come here. We want to have all issues discussed.
We will protect you.
It's when you start throwing bricks and rocks and hurting people that he's going to put you in a pokey. Yeah. All right, coming up. Last night, reports broke that the president is no longer pulling out of the Paris Accord, but the White House calling it fake news. So what's the truth? We have it straight ahead.
And listen to this. The entire state of California now one signature away from becoming a sanctuary state. And it's sparking major outrage, including from our next guest, whose son was killed by an illegal immigrant in the state of California. This dad has a message for lawmakers. Next.
Go to the post office again.
22 minutes after the hour now, and some quick headlines on your Sunday morning. The clowns aren't down with being called a gang. Over 1,500 fans of rap group Insane Clown Posse marching in Washington, protesting the FBI for labeling them as a gang. The marchers, known as Juggalos, saying the designation subjects them to discrimination. And President Trump heading to Alabama next week to campaign for Senator Luther Strange. The president tweeting, "I will be in Huntsville, Alabama on Saturday night to support Luther Strange for Senate. Big Luther is a great guy who gets things done." Strange is contending to fill the seat left vacant by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Pete and Abby?
Let's start calling you Big Todd. All right, California now one step closer to becoming a sanctuary state. The state Senate voting to pass a measure that limits police cooperation with federal immigration authorities.
But some say the legislature puts politics over public safety. Don Rosenberg's son, Drew, he was killed by an illegal immigrant in San Francisco back in 2010, and he is live now for us in L.A. to react. It's great to have you here, and I know that this is an emotional one for you. First, just remind us what happened to your son, Drew, and how you're feeling this morning waking up to this news as you are living in the state of California.
Well, my son was coming home from law school one night, and a guy, Roberto Gallo, tried to make a last-second left-hand turn. They collided in the intersection. Instead of stopping, Gallo accelerated, drove over Drew's body. His helmet got caught under his tire. He backed up, driving over him a second time, and then trying to flee, went forward. The third time, by that time somebody had gotten out of their car, and they stood in front of Gallo's car. He stopped with his tire on my son's abdomen, and 5 guys had to lift the car off of him.
Wow. So when you hear a story like that, how does it make you feel, the fact that California is now making a conscious decision to make that state a sanctuary state?
Well, yeah, I mean, all you can be is outraged that they put their own, re-election. That's they call it the value voters, or the value state. They put their own values of getting reelected over public safety of citizens and law-abiding people all over the state.
Well, Don, what values are those? Because you're making the point, listen, I lost my son to someone who was here illegally, and they're valuing that illegal immigrant's life or future above that of my law-abiding son. I mean, what values are they talking about?
It's their own personal value of getting reelected. That's it. They don't care what happens to anybody else. They try to disguise it that they're helping the illegal alien community, but they're not. They're just helping themselves get reelected. And I'm hoping the Department of Justice comes in and knocks this down. Because it's outrageous that they're doing this. Just about a month ago, Sonoma County sheriffs let a guy out who had beaten up his girlfriend. ICE wanted to pick him up. They let him out. They called ICE, let him out 16 minutes after they called, and 2 weeks later he murdered her. So there's no value here. It's
There are just so many heartbreaking stories that we've heard of, specifically in the state of California. If you could sit down and look in the face of these lawmakers, what would you tell them today?
Well, I'll tell you, because I sent them a letter about 2 weeks ago, and I told them it's your responsibility to protect law-abiding citizens, law-abiding legal immigrants, and to some extent even protect those that are here illegally and aren't committing other crimes. And not to protect criminals. And why would you want to do that? Again, they say it will make the community safer. How can you possibly release criminals back into the community and say it's going to make it safer. And I can tell you, since the Trust Act passed 3 years ago, California's had double-digit crime increases every single year. Every time they say they're going to do something that's going to make the road safer by allowing illegal aliens to drive, well, 2 years later, traffic fatalities are up 19%. So it's a con just to get votes, and the public is suffering because of it.
Absolutely. Well, Don, thank you for joining us this morning, and we, as always, remember your son, and hopefully we live in a country, in a world where citizenship and the law actually matter. We appreciate you coming on this morning.
I certainly hope so. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Don. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Abby.
Just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
All right, now to a Fox News alert and another arrest that has been made in the London subway attack. This, as President Trump says, it is time to get tough and nasty on terror. So what needs to be done exactly? That's coming up.
The man who went face-to-face with the 9/11 mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Dr. James Mitchell, joins us next. Plus, Hillary Clinton gets grilled over that infamous tarmac meeting between her husband, Bill Clinton, and Attorney General Loretta Lynch. And she says it was just bad optics.
The optics, were not good. I admit that. But in this chain of command, if the Attorney General is recused, the Deputy Attorney General